August 4th, 2020, a seemingly ordinary afternoon in Beirut, Lebanon. But in a quiet corner of the city's bustling port, a secret lay hidden in plain sight, a ticking time bomb that had been ignored for 7 long years. Inside a nondescript building known as Warehouse 12, something was stirring. What happened next would unleash one of the most powerful non-nuclear explosions in human history, shattering a city and breaking the hearts of millions around the world. This is the story of how negligence, corruption, and a mountain of forgotten chemicals led to a catastrophe that changed Beirut forever. It all started with a puff of smoke. Around 5:40 p.m. local time, reports of a fire at the Port of Beirut began to circulate. Onlookers, many from their apartment balconies across the city, pulled out their phones and started recording. The smoke was thick and dark, but initially it seemed like just another industrial fire, something the city's firefighters could handle. You can hear the crackling and popping sounds in those early videos like fireworks going off. This was the first sign that something inside that warehouse was far from ordinary. As the fire grew, a smaller initial blast sent a column of fire and debris into the air. This explosion was significant, but it was nothing compared to what was about to happen. For a few terrifying seconds, there was a strange calm. Then the world seemed to tear apart. At 6:08 p.m., the main event occurred. A colossal fireball erupted from the warehouse, followed by a supersonic shockwave that ripped through the city at incredible speed. A massive, mushroom-shaped cloud of reddish-brown smoke billowed into the sky, an apocalyptic image that would be broadcast across the globe. The force of the blast was staggering, equivalent to hundreds of tons of TNT. It was felt as far away as Cyprus, over 200 kilometers across the Mediterranean Sea. In Beirut, the shockwave was a physical entity of pure destruction. It flattened buildings near the port, flipped cars, and shattered windows for miles around. Entire neighborhoods were reduced to rubble in an instant. The sound was deafening, a visceral roar that shook the very foundations of the city. People who were recording the fire from what they thought was a safe distance were violently thrown to the ground. Security cameras from across the city captured the ripple effect as the wave of pressure expanded, blowing out doors and windows in a terrifying domino effect. So, what could possibly cause such an immense explosion? The answer had been sitting in Warehouse 12 since 2013. Culprit was 2,750 tons of ammonium nitrate. This chemical compound is commonly used in fertilizers, but is also a highly explosive material used in mining and construction. It had been unloaded from a cargo ship, the MV Roses, which had been impounded at the port 7 years earlier due to safety issues and unpaid fees. Instead of being safely disposed of or relocated, this massive stockpile of explosive material was simply locked away and for the most part forgotten. Over the years, numerous port officials, customs agents, and even judges were reportedly aware of the dangerous cargo. Memos were sent, warnings were issued, but a tangled web of bureaucracy, apathy, and alleged corruption meant that no decisive action was ever taken. The ammonium nitrate sat there, year after year, in decaying bags in a poorly ventilated warehouse. A disaster waiting to happen. The exact trigger for the initial fire remains a subject of investigation. One leading theory suggests that welding or repair work being done near the warehouse might have sparked the blaze. A single spark, combined with years of lethal negligence, was all it took. The human cost of this failure was catastrophic. The blast claimed the lives of over 200 people and left more than 6,500 injured, many of them severely. The sheer scale of the injuries overwhelmed Beirut's hospitals, which were already struggling with an economic crisis and the COVID-19 pandemic. To make matters worse, some of the city's major hospitals were themselves heavily damaged by the explosion, forcing doctors to treat patients in hallways and parking lots. The images from that day are heartbreaking, dazed and bloodied survivors stumbling through streets, covered in glass and debris, desperately searching for loved ones. An estimated 300,000 people were left homeless in the blink of an eye, their homes and lives destroyed. The economic devastation was just as immense. The Port of Beirut wasn't just a collection of warehouses. It was the main artery for Lebanon's economy, the entry point for the vast majority of the country's imports, including essential food and medical supplies. The explosion obliterated large sections of the port, including its main grain silo, which contained a significant portion of Lebanon's wheat reserves. The total economic losses were estimated to be in the tens of billions of dollars. a crushing blow to a nation already on the brink of economic collapse. In the immediate aftermath, a wave of international support flooded into Lebanon. Then 30 countries sent aid, from search and rescue teams who worked tirelessly in the rubble to find survivors, to field hospitals, food, and medical supplies. The global community watched in horror and responded with compassion. But back in Beirut, grief and shock quickly turned to rage. For the Lebanese people, this wasn't a natural disaster. It was the ultimate symbol of the corruption and incompetence of their ruling class. Massive protests erupted across the city. People took to the streets demanding accountability and justice for the victims. They chanted against a political system they felt had failed them at every level. The public outrage was so intense that it led to the resignation of the entire Lebanese government just days after the blast. However, for many, this was a hollow victory. Years later, the investigation into who was responsible for the explosion has stalled, mired in political interference and legal challenges. The families of the victims continue their fight for truth, a painful and frustrating battle for justice that has yet to see a resolution. The long-term impact on Beirut is profound. Physical scars of the explosion are still visible across the city. While reconstruction efforts have been ongoing, many historic buildings and neighborhoods are forever changed. The psychological trauma on its residents is immeasurable. Every person in Beirut has a story from that day, a memory of where they were when the sky fell. The blast deepened Lebanon's existing economic and political crises, pushing the country further into instability. Yet, amidst the tragedy, the story of the Beirut explosion is also one of incredible resilience. In the hours and days that followed, it was the people themselves who led the recovery. Volunteers swarmed the streets with brooms and shovels, clearing debris from their neighbors' homes. They'd organized food drives, set up shelters, and offered comfort to those who had lost everything. This incredible display of community solidarity and human spirit showed the true strength of the Lebanese people. It was a powerful reminder that even in the darkest of times, compassion and community can shine through. The Beirut disaster serves as a chilling lesson for the entire world about the catastrophic consequences of negligence in handling hazardous materials. It highlights the critical importance of strict safety regulations, proper storage protocols, and transparent governance. It is a call to action for governments and industries everywhere to ensure that a tragedy like this never happens again. The 2,750 tons of ammonium nitrate may have been a secret buried in a warehouse, but its deadly potential was a known risk that was criminally ignored. The people of Beirut paid the ultimate price for that failure. As we remember the victims and honor the survivors, we must also demand accountability and push for changes that will protect other cities from a similar fate. Thank you for watching. If you found this story important, please like this video and subscribe for more in-depth reports.